Okay, I know my cryptid people are going to want to hear tonight's true story, and the submitter wishes to remain anonymous. But without further ado, this happened in southern Ohio. A friend and I make a point to visit an older gentleman a couple of times a month to chat and help him out with anything he might be unable to do on his own. He lives in an old farmhouse on a huge property and loves to ride his golf cart through the woods around his house. So when we visit, we make sure and ask him about his trails and maintain them if they need it. When we asked about them a few weeks ago, he tells us that he had been too scared to take his golf cart out because he thinks there are squatters living out in the old abandoned schoolhouse way out towards the back 40 of his property. He tells us that he had seen a man wearing all black hiding behind some trees and that the boards over the doorway had been torn off. We volunteered to investigate. This was very strange because he lives about as far from anything as you possibly can in Ohio. That abandoned schoolhouse would be nearly impossible to find for anyone that didn't already know it was there, and it's also in horrendous shape. The windows and doors have been boarded up, probably for decades, and a large portion of the roof has caved in. I assume the board over the door had simply rotted off, and that he had most likely mistaken a shadow for a person hiding from him. We trudged back to the schoolhouse. It's probably close to a half a mile from the main house. It was fairly dark by the time we reached it, but there were obvious signs of something actively using the area. Saplings were pushed over, there was a recently worn trail through the weeds, and the boards covering the door and one window were quite obviously ripped off. Fragments of splintered boards were still lying nearby the door. We then hear something moving around inside. I rushed over to the door, my friend shadowing right behind me, and shined my flashlight inside. Something roughly the size of a large man that appeared to be fully covered in long, either dark brown or black hair, bolted across the far side of the building on two legs and stepped right through the damaged window. We ran to the corner of the building to try to get another look. It stopped briefly and looked back at us before disappearing into the dense woods. I didn't get a great look at it, but it was definitely covered in fur from head to toe, bipedal, and approximately the size of a large frame man. It was far enough away that I couldn't get a good look at his face, but his eyes reflected a very faint orange color. It was unbelievably fast and very quiet. We returned the next day and installed 3 trail cameras around the perimeter and recovered them a couple days ago. One camera had been pushed halfway around a tree to now face away from the building, but somehow did not take any photos. The other 2 just captured typical woodland creature activity. Now, my friend and I are avid outdoorsmen and have seen every type of wildlife Ohio has to offer. I've seen bears standing on 2 legs, and this definitely was not a bear. It was far too fast to be a human and seemed to be proportioned differently. I don't believe that Bigfoot is real, but it doesn't match descriptions I read online either. It was skinnier, did not have overly broad shoulders, and the head seemed small for its body. I'm very, very skeptical that Bigfoot could exist, especially in Ohio, but I saw something absolutely unexplainable. Thoughts? Wow. Great story. I don't know what in the heck you saw either, but I'm glad it was you and not me. Guys, keep sending me your stories and suggestions. That has been Jay's Haunted Appalachia for tonight. Keep Appalachia haunted, y'all.